Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest, and her name is Vanessa Cardenas. She is a relationship coach that specializes in betrayal recovery and also helping both parties that are involved, not just the person that was betrayed. So, Vanessa, this is very interesting. Betrayal recovery. Not a lot of people know that there's recovery for betrayal. So, what is betrayal recovery? And how does it
Mm,
tie into being a relationship coach? Because, I mean, you shouldn't betray the person you're with, right?
you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? But
hmm
unfortunately, betrayal's on the rise. Actually,
Mm,
it's cheating. Cheating is the layman's term for it, but it's really betrayal. It truly,
hmm
truly is. It's my definition of it is when you pretty much rip the heart out of your beloved and stomp on it,
mm,
and just destroy them in a few moments, whether it's a slow burn and it's been progressing over time, or it's a instantaneous thing that
hmm
happens in your relationship. But it's when you find yourself completely devastated and destroyed because the person you loved the most defied your trust. They did something that just was unthinkable. How could they?
hmm
And I Listen, no one studies betrayal recovery unless they've been through it, and
hmm
guilty as charged. I went through it. I was completely devastated by 3 words, only 3 words that my husband said.
Huh.
"I've met someone."
Ooh.
And just like that, the my entire relationship flashed before my eyes. Now, for me, I met my husband in middle school. And I had known him at the time he said those 3 words over 3 decades. We had been
Wow.
married over 2 decades. What? What do you mean you've met someone?
Uh-uh.
And I fell apart. I absolutely fell apart. Now I'm a smart woman. I have a psychology degree.
hmm
I'm a C-suite executive. I help all the employees and all my team members get through all sorts of trials and tribulations. But
hmm
here I am, a mess on my bedroom floor in the fetal position, in so much pain because I
hmm
didn't see it coming. I absolutely didn't see it coming. And for
hmm
me, it was stacked on top of micro betrayals I had throughout my life. And a
hmm
lot of people don't recognize a lot of the betrayals that they have, especially early in childhood, because we don't have the
hmm
language for it.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is when you're in the second grade and your best friend suddenly doesn't want to be best friends with you anymore and wants to be best friends with someone else and leaves you out and you're
Mm,
ostracized. We didn't have any words then to be able to express how we felt. And for me, I came home and I shared the experience with my mother. I was in tears because my best
mhm,
friend, Mary Jane, wanted to be friends with someone else. And she wasn't
mm,
my friend anymore. And, you know, I was born to teenage parents, terrified teenage
mhm,
parents who just didn't know how to deal with, a 6-year old, a 7-year old, an 8-year-old, and
mhm,
just dismissed my feelings. Oh, you'll make other
mhm.
friends. And just like that, in that moment, I learned that my feelings don't matter. And
Oh,
I carried that forth unbeknownst to me. I didn't realize that. And I didn't
mhm,
realize that that was a form of betrayal. And then I had another one when I got my first job. You know how it is when you get that first job, you're so eager, you're eager beaver. You can't wait to share all sorts of ideas and whatnot. And I did with
mhm,
coworkers that turned around and told the boss. And either the
mhm,
boss loved the idea and then they took credit for it, or
mm,
hated the idea and said, "Oh, Vanessa said that." And that was a form of betrayal. And
mhm,
all of these little micro betrayals throughout my life Ooh, they got cut right back open when my husband
Oh,
said those 3 words to me.
ouch.
And that was it. I fell hard and deep.
Oh man, that is one heck of a story, just right off the bat. And those three words are really wow. Yeah, I don't think that there's any other words that could be on par besides literal death, and I mean, it might as well be because divorce is a death of sorts. And I mean, so now you don't only have this betrayal going on, you have this grieving process going. And so you also brought up micro betrayals. And can you expand on like how do micro betrayals build up? Uh, what does it mean to have them kind of snowball into a bigger thing? Is it kind of like addiction? Because addiction, we kind of start off with the choice to use or drink, and then eventually we lose that choice and we break the cycle by gaining making the choice to stop again. So it starts real small and then it explodes one day until it's out of control. So betrayal, is it so much so that if I become betrayed enough I am automatically the victim all the time, or is it more like I get betrayed, and so now I put up this defensive wall so no one gets in, you know? Or is it both? Or is it a little bit different for everyone? Or is it a little bit different for the same person just day to day?
That was so well said. It's all of the above. It's E. It's all of the above because we're all unique. We're
Mhm.
completely unique and we're so beautiful in our own right. And
Mhm.
when we experience something, we take it very differently than the next person. And that's where, regrettably, social media, yeah, the compare and despair that we wind up having, we minimize our feelings or we catastrophize our feelings.
Mhm.
And we look to others as a barometer of how we are supposed to feel. And
Mhm.
that can be a very slippery slope. And it's very dangerous to compare our situation to someone else. Your
Mhm.
situation is your own. Your pain is your own. Your
Mhm.
hurt is your own. No one can take that away from you. You
Mhm.
feel, you felt, you're feeling. No one can argue your feelings. So you
Mhm.
own your feelings. When I work with clients, I wanna make sure they don't get trapped in their
Mhm.
feelings, that their body doesn't become the coffin for all of these emotions, that they allow themselves to move through the emotions, not bury their
Mhm.
head in the sand, and not be dismissive of them either. "Oh, that's nothing. She got through it, so I can get through it." No, you can't compare yourself to someone else because you have no idea all of their relationship issues that have either happened before or are happening afterwards.
Mhm.
What we need to do is we need to sit in those feelings, allow them to wash over us, and then come through us and out, so
Mhm.
they don't get stuck. Because the worst thing is to be stuck in the emotional quicksand that we find ourselves in. And
Mhm.
guilty as charged, I was right there. I was absolutely right there. And the more I struggled and fought against it,
Mhm.
the deeper I sank. And
Mhm.
oh, it was awful. And it wasn't until, and again, I made a colossal mistake. I did.
Mhm.
I absolutely did. I
What was
didn't
that?
ask for help.
Oh.
I didn't ask for help. I didn't actually think there was help out there. At the
Mhm.
time that I went through betrayal, when you go into Barnes& and Noble or any bookstore for self-help books,
Mhm.
there were only a couple, and most of them were either religious based,
Mhm.
which wasn't for me, or they were
Mhm.
scientific based, which no, I don't want to know it from a scientific point of view. I want to
Mhm.
know it from a real point of view. Tell me what to expect. Tell me what's possible. Tell me, give me hope. Give me
Mhm.
hope that I can get through this. This is what I need. I need hope.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I actually asked for help. Because
Mhm.
again, keep in mind, I was a smart woman. I had a psychology degree. I could fix me. I could fix him. Absolutely, I could do this. No, no, you
Mhm.
can't. You're too close to it. You
Mm.
need that support system around you. And the blessing that I got was when I finally relented and said, you know what? I need help. I had some great therapists, I had some great coaches, and I had an amazing support group mentor that just she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Truly.
Mm.
And sometimes we need that outside perspective to let
Mm.
us know more than anything else, I see you.
Mhm.
I hear you. And what you're saying and how you're feeling, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. And the most important thing, I've got you. Oh, when I heard that, everything just, I mean, it poured out of me because
Mhm.
I kept everything so close to the chest. Our immediate family didn't even know. My parents didn't know. His parents didn't know. The only people within our family were our children because they were in the
Mhm.
house. But our friends, our work colleagues, they had no idea, none
Mm.
whatsoever. And it was in that support group where you can speak freely, where you can
Mhm.
shed all the layers of expectations that either you have put on yourself or others have put on you. You can shed all of that and you can be real and you can be
Mhm.
authentic and you can state your truth and you can own your truth and you can get through it.
Mm. I love that because it does seem that the best way through emotions is quite literally through them and embracing them. And I did the same thing with not asking for help, just it seems that that's the toughest thing to do whenever someone is in most need of help is just reaching out. And so with that being said, betrayal is all about, well, those close to you essentially giving you the Julius Caesar, right? And the thing is, you can't, I don't even know how to put this because how do you go about trusting after you've been betrayed? Like, how do you actually trust yourself? How do you ask for help? And because to ask for help is to trust again. And after someone so close to you betrays you, what makes you think that other people are going to not do the same? you know but trusting myself has been one of the hardest things to actually do because I think in addiction I was betraying myself day in and day out. And so I probably never really put those two together until just now. Um so what about trusting yourself with betrayal? Uh, because asking for help is really difficult. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back on saying, that's it, I'm done. I have to say something needs to change. Was there a specific moment, like a particular day, where everything just changed besides those three words?
It's a beautiful question. Actually, considering that I've been on over 70 podcasts, no one's ever asked me that. It's such an amazing question. And I'm so grateful that you asked because, yes, there was a second day of reckoning for me. And it was when I realized that I wasn't living my own life anymore. And how that came about was because I, guilty as charged, I compared and despaired,
Mm.
though I had never encountered the other woman.
Mhm.
In my mind, she was a swimsuit model. She was drop dead gorgeous,
Mhm.
just an amazing woman. And I compared and despaired to the point where I couldn't even look in a mirror. And I had
Mm.
covered all of the mirrors in my house. And initially it started with like, throwing a scarf over it and just kind of hiding the fact that I was covering the mirrors. But then
Mhm.
it got kind of blatant that we didn't have a single mirror in the house. They were all covered. And
Oh,
I
no.
thought to myself, this is crazy. This is
Mhm.
ridiculous. What am I doing to myself?
Mhm.
And I remembered something that had been said to me early on that I didn't believe. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And when it was
Mhm.
said to me, I was like, No, no." And what it was, though the betrayal was done to me, it
Mhm.
wasn't about me, had nothing to
Ooh.
do with me, had nothing to do with me. That was his choice. It's what he did. I didn't do anything related to it. It was not my fault. And that
Mm.
was a very big revelation. And I remember standing in my bathroom, brushing my teeth, not being able to look in the mirror, had no idea
Mhm.
what I looked like. And just like a thunderbolt, I heard it. This is
Mm.
not your fault. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It's not my fault because for so long, that time period in between I've met someone and it's not your fault, I had
Mhm.
had my nasty chick voice on my shoulder screaming at me,
Mm.
beating me down every single day. What did you
Mhm.
do? What didn't you do? This is all your fault. And relentlessly berating me.
Mhm.
And it was that moment, that exact moment where I was like, enough is enough. Enough is enough. I can't do this alone. I cannot do this alone. And that's when I started to search for something, some sort of help. And this was quite a while ago when wasn't many. This was very underground. And it just took one person to the next person to the next person and saying, hey, there's a support group. There is a
Hmm.
support group for you. And yeah, I drove 2 hours each way to it, but I was so
Wow.
grateful. I was so grateful that there was some place that I could go where people understood. They understood how I was feeling and why I had jumped into the abyss, basically,
Mhm.
of darkness. And I'm so grateful. I am so grateful for that group that just shared so freely. And they were so willing to take me in and soothe me and let me know that I'm not alone. That was monumental for me. And I found myself the unofficial ambassador for the group, whereas everybody else had me on speed dial. And I
Ah.
get calls in the middle of the night. I'm suffering. I'm having a trigger. Something's going on. And my
Mhm.
anxiety's through the roof. Can you help talk me down and
Mhm.
whatnot? And I relished in that role. And there was a time, another moment in time that stands out for me, where
Mhm.
the leader of the group, the mentor of the group, pulled me aside. And every time I think of her, um, may she rest in peace. I lost her 4 years ago, and
Mm.
I still
My
feel it every day. I still feel her presence. I'm so grateful for her. She pulled me aside one day, and she said, "Vanessa, there's something I need to tell you." "Okay." "You're being selfish." "What? What do you mean I'm being selfish? What are you talking about? I'm the sponsor of everyone else in this group." Like I unleashed on her. I was so offended. "What are you talking about?" And she says, "There's only 11 of us here.
Mm.
You need to be out there.
Mhm.
You need to get your message out there. You need to get your story out there. People need to know that they are not alone.
Mhm.
And with that being said, she said, "You need to write a book." Write a book? What do
Oh.
you mean write a book? You I've my parents don't even know about that. His parents don't even know about that. You want me to go out there? She said, "Yes, you need to heal out loud. You need to
Mhm.
wear your heart on your sleeve because you have a gift of
Mhm.
being able to communicate in such a way because sometimes we can hear things
Mhm.
that we take it in and we're like, yeah, okay. But sometimes someone else says something similar, and it's just the choice of their words. It's
Mhm.
just the choice of their words that make a difference, that make it, you hear it. Whereas
Mhm.
before you dismissed it, you hear it. And she said, you have that gift. You have to be out there. You have to talk. You
Mhm.
have to let people know that they're not alone, that they are not alone in how much they are hurting because
Mhm.
hurt people hurt people. We
Unfortunately.
just do. When we're hurting, whether it's intentional or not intentional, we hurt others. We also hurt ourselves, as you
Mhm.
mentioned. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I see it. I see it all the time when couples come into my office and they're just hurting and they lash out at each other rather than leaning into each other. They
Mhm.
lash out at each other because they're both individually just so hurt. They're so
Mhm.
hurt, and sometimes it's and I'm trying very hard not to say it's simplistic, but it is the number one thing is communication.
Mhm.
We've lost the art of communicating with each other, whether that's the
Mhm.
art of speaking to each other or the art of listening to each other. And with that being said, it can be very, very challenging.
Mhm.
So, the first thing that I do with clients, and I needed to do it with myself,
Mhm.
is learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
Learn how to communicate. Ask for help.
Yeah. Asking for help, super big. And my condolences on the original mentor. But sounds like you heard exactly what you needed to hear. And I'm so glad that you did because otherwise we may not be having this conversation right now. And I mean, you said it yourself, you've been on 70 or so podcasts. And so you're also on the radio. You've got a book written. By the way, what is the name of your book?
Dealing with the devastation of your partner's betrayal, what to do when your world falls apart.
Hmm. All right. So, everyone, the link for that and her website will be in the episode description on YouTube and Spotify. Um, but also, I gotta say, thank you for just taking up the mantle to help people out with this because that's how AA started. A lot of people don't realize it started with essentially the same thing, and it grew into this big thing that has spread worldwide and has saved countless lives. And now you're sitting here and you're providing something of the similar service. You may not have started the group that you went into, but you did branch out. You're doing outreach. You're doing these things that are making a meaningful impact to your community and the people around you and people you may never even meet. And that is just amazing kind of stuff. So I got to thank you on behalf of everyone that may not ever be able to give you thanks. Um, but I do have one kind of curious question, and it does have to go with the relationships aspect of betrayal. Because, as you said in the beginning, cheating is on the rise. We've lost a sense of communication. And I think technology, cell phones have a little bit of something to do with that, if not a large portion. However, since most of the people are dealing with cheating, and I mean, most people or I can't even say most, because every situation is so different. You have couples that are together, break up, together, break up, together, break up, and just a never ending cycle. Then you have some that are just here and then gone. And I don't even have to go into that because everyone knows it. So the ones going into you are looking to mend the relationship, correct? But whenever they're lashing out at each other, that's defeating the purpose. So you're kind of the intermediary to help understand why one person did XYZ, and letting the other person know it's not their fault, right? Um, so what does that usually look like for some people? Like, obviously, there's not a like standalone standard or anything like that. Like, yeah, if these people do this, they'll be great, and if these people do this, they'll be fantastic. There's nothing like that, but there's got to be something that kind of sticks out. Like, well, if they don't communicate what this person did to make this person feel this way, which made them do this in response, kind of thing. Uh, you catch my drift? I don't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Completely cut your drift. Absolutely, without a doubt. First and foremost, for reconciliation to happen, there needs
Hmm.
to be a willingness by both parties
Hmm.
to mend the relationship. If there's only one, it becomes a little challenging to stay together in the relationship.
Mhm,
And some relationships we have we have the relationship for a reason,
mhm,
some we have for a season, and
mhm,
some we have for a lifetime. And relationships don't have to be perfect. And that's a misconception that regrettably Disney has put on us with expectations of how
mhm,
a relationship is supposed to go. Again, when we start to compare and despair with our neighbors and with our colleagues and with our friends, ooh, look at their relationship. You have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. You have no idea whatsoever.
mm,
I find that when couples come in and they're actually lashing out at each other, that's still a good sign. There's
mhm,
still passion in that relationship. It might be anger at the moment, but there's
mhm,
still passion. It's when they
mhm.
come into my office and they're not talking at all,
Ooh,
where they have just settled into this is what it is. And
yeah.
either we're just going to stay together for the sake of the kids, or we're going to separate because we're just going to separate. And the
Mhm,
problem that I find that I see most often is that repeat pattern where we
mhm,
bring in the ex into the next relationship. All the things that were
ooh,
wrong with that first relationship,
mhm,
boy, we see it in the second relationship, in the third relationship, in the fourth relationship. And we don't have the tools to break the pattern, and
mm.
we need to break the pattern because I still go back to the Beatles, "All you need is love." I'm sorry, I'm a softie on that, but you need love, you need a
Mhm,
willingness, and you need to understand that you need to have a responsible relationship.
ooh,
Responsible relationship where each party is responsible
mhm,
for everything within the relationship. And the most important thing that I find that a relationship thrives on
mhm,
is confidence. If
ooh,
you can be the caretaker to each other's confidence,
mhm,
sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. You know how you feel when your partner says something that just causes you to pump out your chest and you feel really good about it.
mhm.
May I give you an example?
I'm sorry, what was that?
May I give you an example?
Yes, yes, yes.
Beautiful. My husband usually wears black, navy, gray.
Mhm.
I've never seen him in red, but he and my daughter became Manchester United soccer fans, and their jersey's red. So my daughter, for the holidays, got him a red jersey.
Ah.
I'd never seen my husband. I've known him for 30 years. I've never seen him in red. And
Mhm.
I made a comment in passing, just in passing, because I saw him in the kitchen and they were,
Mhm.
during getting snacks or whatever it was. And I said, "Wow, you look really good in red." Let me tell you something. My
Mhm.
man of mine, he turned around and it seemed like every day since then, he's been wearing a red t-shirt because he felt good. I said something to him that just made his confidence explode, and he took that. And again, I just said it in passing. Imagine if you say something intentional to your
Mhm.
partner to make them feel good. It goes
Mm.
so far. It just does. And we look to each other for that confidence building. We get it
Mhm.
internally. Yes, we have our own sense of confidence, but it's nice to be seen by our
Mhm.
partner.
Oh yeah, it really is. And it sounds like compliments go a long way, even after you're already in the relationship,
Mhm,
in a committed one.
mhm,
And I think that that's something a lot of people don't really get. Um, I mean, some people might be used to compliments from random strangers here and there because some people are just gifted and blessed with those kind of looks. And so a compliment from their partner may not be very flattering, even though it should be. And I think some people might find that that's unfair, you know. Uh, but I'm sure that that would be something in their relationship dynamic that they would discuss early on. But one thing that I do love that you talked about was the confidence. And it also seems that if I were to compare uh, relationships with relationships, then that's also taking away confidence in the current relationship. And so I can also see how you were talking about patterns and we need to break out of the patterns because in my experience I've learned that if I see a red flag and I ignore it, then it's just going to keep coming back and back and back. And sometimes the red flag may change shape, but it's still red. And but the thing is, I've got to learn to trust myself to say that those are red flags. Hey, I don't want to do this again. But with that confidence uh, aspect in the relationship, what can people do to build confidence after it's been broken? Because confidence is a lot like trust. It doesn't really just come out of the blue and just say, I saved the day, Yeah, it doesn't do that. It's something that is a slow buildup through time and consistency. And it's something that really, like trust, once it's broke, it's kind of gone for the most part, but you have to be willing to let it back in. So how does someone go about that? Because that's got to be difficult.
It's definitely incremental. Listen,
Incremental.
not for nothing. I can't buy the most expensive running shoes and run the New York Marathon the next day. It's not gonna happen. Let's
Uh-huh.
be realistic. It's the same thing here. It's
Mhm.
incremental. You start with something small. You make a commitment to yourself that you are going to do something, regardless of what it is. If you are concerned about your consumption on your phone, that it's the
Mhm.
first thing you reach for in the morning, make a
Mhm.
commitment to yourself. You know what? I'm going to take a nice deep breath before I reach for my phone. Every time I reach for my phone, I'm going to take a nice deep breath. Before
Mm.
you know it, you've probably taken a nice deep breath 50 times a day because that's how often we tend to look at our phones. But with that being said, you've made a commitment to yourself. You
Mhm.
honor that commitment. And when you do it, you recognize, you know what? I did that. It's not a long term, far out into the future. It's today. What are you going to
Mm.
do today? I'm going to make sure that I do X, Y, and Z today. Then
Mhm.
do X, Y, and Z. Then I did that.
Mhm.
That slowly starts to build up your confidence of what you are capable of doing. And again, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be as simple as, in my case, it was as simple as I'm going to read a chapter a day.
Mm.
of any book, regardless of the book. I want to spend time reading one chapter a day. And when I
Mm.
do it, I have a sense of accomplishment and I know that I'm doing something for myself. And there's a lot of discussion about self-care.
Mhm.
Ugh, and sometimes we weaponize self-care. And no, I
Ooh.
go about self-care very differently. I
Uh-huh.
know people are like, "Oh, get a massage," this and that. Some people aren't into that. So it becomes a situation where people are, they're not doing self-care. They feel like they're not doing self-care. "Oh, I'm not doing self-care." Because somebody said, "Oh, get a massage, get your nails done, get your hair done, do something of that nature."
Mhm.
No, my definition of self-care is very different, and I actually take the word self
Mm.
to consideration. So we start
Okay.
with S,
Okay.
sleep. You need sleep. You need rest. You need to
Mhm.
honor your body. Think of it this way, and Vanessa's going to tell you this, that every time you sleep, you are rejuvenating yourself. You're resetting yourself. You get an
Mhm.
opportunity to get up the next day and start over. Oh, it's glorious. So S is for self. E,
Okay.
exercise. And I'm not talking about being a gym rat. No, not at all. Go for a walk. Move your
Mhm.
body. Touch your toes 10 times. Do 10 jumping jacks. Reach for the stars 10 times. Something that allows your body to move.
Mm.
Exercise. The
Got it.
L,
Mhm.
the L is look forward. Look forward. And I'm not talking years into the future. I'm talking tomorrow. Stay present today, but look to tomorrow. Look forward. Have a plan. The best, and you know this, the best
Mhm.
thing is when you anticipate something wonderful happening. You've made plans for something good. You're going to go to your favorite restaurant next
Mhm.
week. You start looking forward to that. You have
Mhm.
that excitement, that anticipation. That creates something in your body. It starts moving those emotions around because now you need to make room for excitement.
Mm.
So look forward. And then the last is F. F is for fuel. Fuel.
Hmm.
And that's not just food. It's
Mm.
food, it's hydration, and it's breathing.
Ah.
And breathing's a tough one. Breathing,
Mhm.
I have fun with this. You wanna have fun with me?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Are you a smoker by chance?
I
Former smoker?
vape. Uh, I
Vape?
vape now,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
So.
So, this is not a PSA for smoking, not at all. But one of the things that I found really fascinating when I worked in corporate America is that
Mhm.
we would be under a tight deadline. We'd be really into something, and suddenly a whole group of people would get up and leave.
Yeah.
And they come back and they'd be so relaxed. Like they'd
Mhm.
be just ready to take on the next thing that we needed to do. And I remember kind of asking around, where are they going? Oh, smoking break.
Mhm.
I mean, smoking break. Like, are they getting high? What's going on here? Type of thing. So I decided to go observe because
Mhm.
that's what I do.
Mhm.
And I would see them and I started to really pay attention to what's going on. So I invite you and all of
Okay.
your listeners to smoke without the cigarette. Meaning, you
Mm.
know what you do the first time you take that cigarette and you put it to your mouth? You breathe in, you pump out that chest, you take it all the way in, all the way down to your hips. And what
Mm.
do? You hold on to it and you release. Exactly.
Mm.
Now, the average cigarette has 20 inhales. And you know, you get to the very end of that cigarette, and what do? Bring it to their lips, and they take that last long drag in. They
Mhm.
can't wait to get it all the way down to their hips, and
Mhm.
they release. What's happening is they're breathing.
Mm.
They're taking that mindful breath in. Granted, it's filled with smoke and everything else, but it's still the body's reaction
Mhm.
So the breathing, they pump out their chest, they hold it, they release it. That is the mechanism for relaxing.
Mm.
So I invite your audience, take a smoking break without the cigarette.
Mm.
Breathe, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Everybody talks about breath,
Mhm.
breath work. Breath work is smoking without a cigarette. That's really what it is. And you'll be surprised how relaxed you get. Even if you breathe in and out deeply for just 5 times, it makes a
Mhm.
world of difference because what it's doing is it's relaxing your body. Part of self care.
Ah.
SELF. F is for fuel, food, hydration, breath work.
Oh man, I love all that. And you're right. Self care can be almost weaponized because it's like if you don't do this or you don't do that, that's not self care. And it's like, no, self care is whatever I need to do to make sure that I am mentally stable because sometimes what worked one day will not work the next day. And uh, I really love the self. So we have sleep, we have exercise. We have um help me out. L.
Looking forward.
Looking forward. And
Looking
then
forward to something. Something in your world just feels really good.
see, and maybe I had a hard time remembering that because for the longest time, I couldn't look forward. It was bleak, it was dark, there was nothing there. And so that was in the throes of addiction. So I know that in betrayal, whenever you're hurt, it's the same thing. You don't see an end, but maybe you can see tomorrow. So is that how you kind of get out of the, well, there's no end in sight, but it's not so much stop looking 10 miles ahead of you and just look 10 steps ahead of you kind of thing, right? Um, because I mean, I don't know about you, but whenever I made the decision to stop drinking, whenever I said for the rest of my life, that was scary. That was like forever. Like, I'm sorry, but forever is supposed to be in the Disney movies, you know? Like, my forever is supposed to be like, I'm going to keep drinking until the day I die. But now I chose to not drink until the day I die. And it was like a total mindset switch. And it was scary, it was hard, and it made recovery difficult. So, betrayal recovery, how does that come into play? How does the long and short term effects of betrayal recovery play out?
Great question. I'm going to circle back to the looking forward. For
Hmm.
me, I looked forward to the support group.
Mm,
'Cause
I
it was
love
every
that.
week. I looked forward to it. I knew I was going. I knew I was gonna get in my car. I was gonna travel for 2 hours, would have my playlist ready for what I was gonna listen to on the drive. I was
Hmm.
by myself. I really tried to control my thoughts, not to go into that spiraling of the darkness and whatnot, and try to stay open-minded and focused and really actually think about the other people that were
Hmm.
there as well because, someone mentioned something or other and they were going to go to an event. Oh, what event are they going to? Let me make sure I remember to ask them about what's going on in their world, that type
Hmm.
of thing. So I looked forward to that. So that gave me some self care by looking
Hmm.
forward to an event, to something. And in my case, it was my support group. I looked forward to it. So,
Okay.
answering that question. Um, in terms of short term and long term,
Hmm.
my short term was getting through the day. Getting through the day, and I attempted to make a commitment to myself that I wouldn't cry
Hmm.
because for me it was crying and it was not just regular just tears rolling, it was ugly crying. It was the mascara and everything and the sobbing and the snot and just the avalanche of emotions that overcame me.
Hmm.
So my short-term goals were to stop crying every day. My
Hmm.
long-term goals was to make it through the week, to
Hmm.
make it through the week and to see where I was at. I do need to give a big shout out to actually my husband. My
Nice.
husband was, and yes, I am still married. Um,
So happy
my
for you.
husband was really very committed to us staying together. I
Nice.
was not. I got those
Ooh.
3 words, I immediately took off my rings. I handed them right to him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm out." And it wasn't until months later in counseling, in
Mhm.
therapy, that he got to explain himself because I pretty much didn't let him talk from that
Mhm.
moment on. I just raged on him because, again, all these micro betrayals and this nasty chick voice on my shoulder just screaming at me.
Mhm.
Um, with that being said, uh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to him for the willingness and being committed to doing whatever he needed to do to make this better, to make it right.
Mhm.
And after studying betrayal recovery, I understand how important that is. At the
Mm.
time, I didn't, but
Mhm.
going through my studies and working with Dr. Debbie Silber and the prestigious Post Betrayal Institute,
Mhm.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about relationships and their dynamics and the pitfalls that we can fall into, as
Mhm.
well as the ladders that we need to get out.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm grateful. I am grateful. I'm a completely different woman than I was before the betrayal. People who haven't
Mhm.
seen me in 10, 15 years, they cannot believe the transformation that I've gone through. And I love who I am now. Yeah, I pass by a mirror, I take a glance, I take a look, I absolutely do. And it's not a vanity thing of, like, how I look, it's more
Mhm.
that I get to look into my eyes and look into my soul. I
Mhm.
made it through. I made it through, and now I help others do exactly the same, which I believe is step number 12.
That is exactly correct. And I'm so happy to hear that y'all are still married and still going strong from the sounds of it, because that is one heck of a journey and a story. And who else better to help those that have gone through it than those that are going through it or have gone through it previously, you know? And uh, exactly, step 12 is to help spread the message to help the next person. And you just took it on to a massive scale, which is awesome because it goes back to that outreach aspect and people not knowing how to ask for help. Sometimes it comes from uh, a passing by comment and by a stranger towards you, or maybe you just catch a glimpse of something or a little piece of conversation while you're at the grocery store, and it's that causes the eureka moment. And you're like, aha! But you're sitting here with all this experience and all this knowledge, and you're so just you're helping people through probably one of the most, if not most vulnerable spots in their life. So I mean, that speaks monuments to the people that go to you willingly. You know, that right there shows that they're willing to do this, so they must have the work to actually do it. um but what is one misconception that people have about betrayal?
Ooh, I love this question. Oh, oh boy. That once a cheater, always a cheater.
Ah.
Nope, nope. I do not subscribe to that. Not at all.
Ah.
And I know I'm in the minority on that. And I've written an article about it that gets a lot of feedback on it, but I don't agree with it. I don't
Uh-huh.
agree with it. I believe that every single person has
Mhm.
the capacity to change. And
Mm.
it's not once a cheater, always a cheater.
Mhm.
Once a habitual cheater, then yeah, that's a lot of work to get past that. But
Mhm.
if somebody has betrayed just once, whether that's a long term affair or a one night stand, if they
Mhm.
have done that just once, and they have a willingness, and I can't stress the word willingness enough, to change, to be a better person,
Mm-hmm.
they can do it. They can absolutely do it, and they can revive their relationship, their existing relationship, or protect their next relationship.
Hmm.
So,
Oh, I like how you
yes.
put that. Protect the next
Mhm,
one.
mhm.
Um, and by protecting the next one, is it by protecting the self until you get to that next one?
Yes, protecting the self till they get the next one and protecting the next relationship, not
Mm-hmm.
bringing the baggage or bringing the label in of
Ooh.
cheater. And, yeah, we live in a society where I'm curious that one day we'll all be wearing jumpsuits like NASCAR, where we have labels just all over us of who we are and what we are based on
Mm-hmm.
other people's expectations or thoughts of us, and a lot of them aren't true. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
regrettably, we throw around the word narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time with that word too. I do,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that once we have a label on us,
Mm-hmm.
we own that label, sometimes proudly, but other times full of shame
Mm-hmm.
and guilt. And
Yep.
shame and guilt, those are terrible emotions to walk around with day in and day out. They
Mm-hmm.
are. They're dark emotions. No, go back to the Beatles again. All you need is love and a lot of other things, but, it starts with love, and it starts with self-love. You need to love
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You can do anything. You can do anything if
Mm-hmm.
you love yourself, and if you believe in yourself, and if you trust yourself. And most importantly, are you ready for
Mm-hmm.
this one? This one's the
Yeah.
hardest one. Took me
What
the
is it?
longest time.
I'm
Forgive
listening.
yourself.
Oh,
Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You
you know,
didn't know what you didn't know. You
mm-hmm.
didn't know what you didn't know. Forgive yourself. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. And we've got you. We've got you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think you're entirely correct on that too about forgiving self because on top of asking for help, forgiving self is either right next to each other or just
Just
yeah,
a
just
hair.
yeah, because forgiving self, it's always like, man, I know better, I should have done better. And it's also, I find that it's kind of like a comparison of like the hindsight, you know. It's like, oh yeah, hindsight's 2020, but then there's a hindsight bias that goes, oh, I knew that was going to happen because of my current experience right now, so I know what I should have known then, but I blame myself for not knowing back then. And
Exactly.
just like you said, I didn't know what I didn't know. So
And we just start to spiral.
yeah. And that spiral, it kind of, I don't know if you've seen the Facebook picture or the infographic, I guess, but it's three different shapes, and it looks like either a dot, a line, or something. But it's all about perspective, and it's a spiral. Um, so if you're looking at it from one way or another, it's going up or down. Some people think that recovery is a straight line, and no, it's a spiral because say I get to step 12, it doesn't mean I'm done with all the other steps. It means that I need to go back and rework them every now and again. But people also don't know step 10 is the first maintenance step. And if I don't do that one, then it all starts to crumble away. And so I imagine, like you said earlier, that all this is incremental. And so you don't just sit there and go, all right, I'm in a betrayal recovery group. I got this. I am okay. It doesn't go that way. You kind of got to get that confidence up. You've got to learn to trust yourself again. You've got to just really kind of dig deep just one time, right? Just one time, just for tomorrow. And I was right there with you, and I've been there before. Just sometimes it takes everything I've got to get to the next day. So, um, let's see. We've got a few minutes left. Real quick, what was the name of your book again?
Dealing with the devastation of your partner's betrayal, what to do when your world falls apart.
Awesome. And again, that link in the description. Well, the link will be in the description of the episode. But I have to ask this because there's just so much going on that recovery now we have. I specialize, well, not specialize, I have experience in substance abuse recovery and some other forms, but not in betrayal. But betrayal recovery uh, is still recovery. So I think I would like to ask you if you'd like to be on the show again so we can kind of keep digging into what recovery is and how betrayal recovery is either similar or different from other forms of recovery, because it's not, recovery is recovery, but recovery is not just recovery either, you know.
Absolutely. I welcome the opportunity. This has been an amazing conversation to kick us off. So, part two, I look forward to it.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it because, again, I have to agree, this was just fantastic. um Recovery meets recovery, substance recovery meets betrayal recovery, and I mean, I can't wait to see how many people. Actually, I can't see how many people actually get this because it's on the radio. So just, if anyone is listening out there on the radio whenever this airs, go ahead and go to, I think it's understandingear.com.
Yes, understandingear.com.
Sweet.
Do you want to know where it comes from?
Where did it come from?
A quote in a Stephen King book of all places. You ready for it?
Uh huh.
The hardest things are the most important things to say, locked within, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear.
Ooh, man. Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. That's good. Huh. Well, who knew that the author of it would have something so beautiful as well? um,
Exactly.
but unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. So, everyone out there, thank you for listening on WDJY 99.1 FM. And I will see all of y'all next week. And Vanessa, we'll see you back on the radio. Who, well, we'll just have to record and kind of air it, right?
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. We'll talk to you next time. And everyone out there, Shalon, and stopping recording. Sweet. That
Beautiful.
was